Very pleased to see so many friends and other people in the audience. I will start right in. There once was a young man, his name it was John, hired with the farmer in the county Tyrone. On the fair day of Clady, the farmer he took ill, so he sent John to the market with the cow for to sell. Rattly-rang-do-a-daddy-do, a-da-do-a-dan. And of course you're welcome to join in on the little chorus there. John drove the cow away out of the barn, and off to the fair he instantly ran. He hadn't gone so far till he met two dealing men, who soon bought the cow, and they paid him there and then. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. Then into an alehouse John went for a glass, his feet for to rest and an hour for to pass. Where will I put the money, to the landlady he did say, or where will I hide it? Oh, tell me, I pray. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. In the lining of your coat I will sew it, says she, for fear on the road that it's robbed you might be. The robber in the room sat there sipping at his wine, and he says to himself, all that money will be mine. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. When John started out for his home that afternoon, the robber, he followed him out of the room. He soon overtook him, and this to him did say, won't you hop up behind me, for I'm going your way. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. Well, they hadn't gone so far till the robber turned about. A bright gleaming pistol he quickly drew out. Deliver up your money without either grief or strife, or at this very moment I will take your sacred life. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. Then John was afraid if he tried to refuse, and feared for his life. There was no time to lose. From the lining of his coat he tore the money out, and among the tall grasses, well, he scattered it all about. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. Well, the highwayman, he quickly jumped down from his horse, not thinking that it might be all to his loss. As he gathered up the money that he found among the grass, John hopped into the saddle and rode off with his horse. Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. The farmer's wee daughter saw John a-comin' home, and into her father she quickly ran. "Arra, John," said the farmer, "tell me why did you swap? Or how did me cow turn into a horse?" Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. "Oh, indeed, then," says John, "it's the truth I will unfold. I was stopped on the road by a wee highman bold. As he gathered up your money that I threw among the grass, just to make you amendment, sure I brought home his horse." Rattly-rang-do-a-da-dee-do-a-da-do-a-dan. When the the saddlebag was opened, it was found for to hold 500 bright guineas in silver and gold, a bright pair of pistols, and the farmer he did vow, saying, John, me young fellow, whoo, you're the boy can sell a cow. There you are. Oh my, thank you. Thank you. I got that from the singing of Packy Manus Byrne, County Donegal. And back in 1982 was the first time I went to Ireland. And one of the songs I had already learned was a song called Bonnie Portmore, about a what I thought was a castle that was built back in the 17th century. The 17th century in County Antrim. And the song was a wonderful tribute to forests and trees and the whole biome of a forest that at that time was being decimated for the British Navy, as well as for towns like Lisburn had its own Chicago fire. Many towns had been burned down because of fire back in those days. So trees were just cut down willy-nilly. And this song laments that. So when I went there, my first year in 82, I took the bus as far as I could out from Belfast to Upper Ballinderry, and the castle, it's actually a hunting lodge. The hunting lodge was built in Lower Ballinderry. It's about 2 miles away. But the bus didn't go that far. And after having come from Belfast in 1982, where British armored carriers were driving through the streets with with rifles pointing at people on the sidewalk, and with barbed wire everywhere, every storefront had a huge cage in front of it with two wire doors that wouldn't be opened at the same time, so that bombs couldn't be thrown through. So it was nice to get out of there, out into the country. And walking this 2 miles was a very nice experience. It was summertime, the weather was fine, wasn't too hot. And I met a farmer on the side of the road, and we stopped to chat. As soon as you open your mouth, of course, they say, "Oh, you're a Yank. Are you here searching for your roots?" And I said, no, I'm searching for songs. I'm a singer, and I've come here because I want to find out more about Portmore. And he says, "Oh, you know that song?" And I said, "Yeah, I love it. That's why I'm here. I want to, see the place that it was about." And he said, "Oh, that's a mighty song. It's a huge, long song." And I said, "Really? I only know 3 verses. That's all I have ever seen." He said, "Oh, there must be 20 verses to that song." Well, I was on a quest from that moment. It turns out that I was taken in by a young doctor and his wife for the night. I had asked him where a B&B might be, and he eventually said, "This is Northern Ireland in 1982. There's no B&Bs except outside the major cities. So why don't you stay with us for the night?" Well, how wonderful. And not only that, but he took me around And we eventually found what was told to us was the site of the Portmore Castle. Turns out it was incorrect, but that's okay. It was a wonderful experience. And then we went to about 5 or 6 different places asking about the song. And someone finally suggested, go to see Jean Totten. She's a local historian. We went to her place, not the usual house with a small sitting room off the hallway. You entered into a big room with a big table in the center covered with papers, and around the walls were big file cabinets. After about 10 minutes of searching, she came up with it. And she found the complete song as it was written. It must have been written in the between 1770 approximately, when the Portmore was parted out and taken apart, and 1793 when Bunting collected the song. At any rate, there were 19 verses, which I copied out. The folk process is a good editor very often, because most of those verses did not deserve to be surviving in the folk tradition. I did find 2 pretty good verses, and I took a couple of other verses and split them in half and joined them together. And so I have 6 verses in the version that I sing. Portmore, just another word about, there's a little lake that maybe is 100 acres, a very small, large pond, where the original hunting lodge stood beside it. And it also on the property was this gigantic oak tree called the ornament tree that was blown down in the 1750s. Anyway, here it is. Oh, bonny Portmore, you shine where you stand, and the more I think on you, the more I think long. If I had you now, as I had once before, all the lords in old England could not purchase Portmore. Oh, bonny Portmore, I am sorry to see such a woeful destruction of your ornament tree. For it stood on your shore for many's a long day, till the longboats from Antrim came to float it away. Sorry. All the birds in the forest, they bitterly weep, saying, where shall we forage, and where shall we sleep? For the oak and the ash, they are all cut down, and the walls of bonny Portmore, they're all down to the ground. Squire Dobbs, he was ingenious, he framed a windmill for to drain the loch dry, but the loch is there still. When the wind did blow, the mill it went right, but what it drew off all the long day crept back under at night. Oh, bonny Portmore, you are unfairly done, where once your grand buildings their equal was none. With their ivory tables and their windows of ash, where the great lords they used to dine, the farmers now thresh. Oh, bonny Portmore, fare thee well, fare thee well. It's of your great beauty I ever shall tell. When my last day does come, I will lie by your shore, and sweet will my dreams be by you, bonny Portmore. There you are, bonny Portmore. Thank you. I love being able to find extra verses to songs and dig around in the place where the song came from, because almost invariably you find traces of it on the ground and among the people. Here's one that that is a classic. I'll sing the English translation. One of the most beautiful melodies. A song of lost love with a proposal at the end and no answer. Oh, Bridget O'Malley, you have my heart shaken with a hopeless desolation. Now have you to know it's the wonders of admiration your quiet face has taken, and your beauty will haunt me wherever I go. The cold moon above the pale stars o'er the torn tree are cold beside my darling, but no purer than she. Oh, I gazed upon the cold moon till the stars drowned in the warm sea. But the bright eyes of my darling are never on me. My Sunday is weary, my Sunday it is cold now. My heart, it is a cold place. My heart is a stone. All joy is dead in me. My life is gone away now, for another has taken my love for his own. The day it is approaching when we were to be married, and it's rather I would die than live only to grieve. Oh, meet me, my darling, ere the sun sets o'er the mountain, and I'll meet you there on the road to Drumslee. And there's no response.
Very good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Here's one that is a lot more common. Some of you may know it, and you're welcome to sing along. The chorus is the last two lines of each verse, or maybe just the last line. I'm not sure how it goes. Anyway, I got it from the singing of one of the O'Donnell sisters, and I don't remember which one, Mermaid or Teresa. Anyway, when I was a young girl, when I was a young fair maid about 17, I listed in the Navy, all for to serve the Queen. I listed in the Navy, a sailor for to stand, for to hear the cannons rattling and the music so grand, the music so grand, the music so grand, for to hear the cannons rattling and the music so grand. So do sing along. Well, the officer who listed me was a tall and handsome man. He said, "You'll make a sailor, lad, so come along, me man. Me fingers neat and slender, me waist being nice and thin, the very things they learned me, sure I soon exceeded them. I soon exceeded them. I soon exceeded them. The very things they learned me, sure I soon exceeded them. They sent me to bed and they sent me to bunk, to lie with a sailor, sure I never was afraid. But taking off me blue coat, I often had to smile, for to think I was a sailor and a maiden all the while, a maiden all the while, a maiden all the while, for to think I was a sailor and a maiden all the while. They sent me to London, all for to guard the Tower, and I thought I might be there till my very dying hour. But a lady fell in love with me, I told her I was a maid. Oh, she went unto the captain, and my secret she betrayed. My secret she betrayed. My secret she betrayed. Oh, she went unto the captain, and my secret she betrayed. Well, the captain, he came up to me and asked if this was so. I dare not, oh, I dare not say no. It's a pity we should lose you, such a fine sailor lad. It's a pity we should lose you, such a handsome young maid. You're a handsome young maid, a handsome young maid. It's a pity we should lose you, such a handsome young maid. So fare thee well, me captain, you've been so kind to me, and likewise, me messmates, I'm sorry to part from thee. But if ever the navy needs a lad, a sailor I'll remain. I'll put off me hat and feathers, and I'll run the rigging again. I'll run the rigging again. I'll run the rigging again. I'll put off me hat and feathers, and I'll run the rigging again. Yes, I'll run the rigging again. I'll run the rigging again. I'll put off me hat and feathers, and I'll run the rigging again. There you are. May we all be running the rigging again and deeply involved in our lives.
That was China's song.
Ah, yes.
Not my rigging.
I'm going to change the mood here a little bit, but stay on the ocean still. This song I heard from a recording of Brendan Begley, and it's a newly composed song. It's composed by Christy Moore with the music written by Wally Page, and you can actually feel the rocking motion of the ocean in the melody. It's a true event. It's based on a true event that occurred on the middle of the Aran Islands in Ishmian. And a couple of things that would help with understanding it. First of all, the chorus is in the Irish language. And it means, God be with you, you two fine fishermen. You will not be standing at the top of the strand again. May you find peace and happiness among the saints. And the two fishermen are brothers, Tomas and Sean O'Keneally in Irish and O'Keneally in English. The two places are named in the song are the two highest points in the island where you could look out over the ocean to find evidence of a capsized boat or shipwreck. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to mention that the practice has been for many, many generations, probably since the 1640s, when the name won't come. The English revolutionary, so-called revolutionary general came and killed thousands and thousands of Irishmen.
Cromwell?
I'm sorry?
Cromwell?
Cromwell it is. Thank you. God, how could I forget that name? Cromwell sent tens of thousands of people to the west, where they had to settle on land that was just barren rock, many of them. And to remedy that, they would haul a certain kind of seaweed up from the shore along with sand and mix them together, and it would eventually form soil that was good enough to grow potatoes in. See the Atlantic seethe and swell, hear the lonely chapel bell, God save their souls and mind them well. Tomas agus Sean O'Keneally. Yesterday at 4:30, they pushed their curragh from the shore. One took the net, one took the oar, the two fishermen Keneally. Die Guive werd na hier skrivra, nach meer barne tra. Grev shiv son sauce der nave, Tomas agus Sean O'Conneille. From Connor's Fort and from Sing's Chair, toward Inishmore and Inishir, we scour the seas in silent prayer as we go searching for our neighbors. Draw the seaweed up the hill, sow potatoes in the drill, try to understand God's will and the lot of the two Keneallys. Die Guive werd na hier skrivra, nach meer barne tra. Grev shiv son sauce der nave, Tomas agus Sean O'Conneille. See the Atlantic seethe and swell, hear the lonely chapel bell, God save their souls and mind them well. Tomas agus Sean O'Conneille, Tomas agus Sean O'Conneille. Sinead.
Very good. Thank you.
Kathleen, could you bring me another glass of water? Thank you. We're going to stay on the ocean for another song, and a bit of a story about it. I was, the first time I was back in Ireland in this century, I think it was 2008, I decided to go by bus. But when I was in northwest Donegal on a Sunday, I discovered there were no buses, so I was hitching. It was slow going, and I got stuck at a spot in the road with a sign pointing off to Ranafast, or in Irish, Ranafirsta. So I thought, well, hey, I could stay here. I know a song that comes from Ranafast. And so there was a hotel in a little town a mile or two away. I checked in and asked the man behind the desk if there were any singing sessions or music sessions around. And he said, it just so happens to be that tonight is the local singing session here in the bar of the hotel. So, my chance. I practiced the song a few times again because it's in the Irish language. It's in the Gaeltacht there, where Irish is normally spoken every day. Went down to the session, sang the song. The locals were amazed that this Yank would know their song. And people then started talking to me about it. So the story behind the song is that a father and son took a boat across the mouth of a bay to a town to buy supplies. And on the way back, the wind had come up. So the father said to the teenage son, "You're good enough. with the boat. Why don't you take the boat back, and I will walk all the way around the bay, and you'll beat me home by hours, but it's better than if both of us were in the boat. It would be more risky. So he got home. He asked, "Where's Paddy?" He hasn't come home yet. Well, they found his body the next day on a rock which is named the Rock of Tears, and people started in the session telling me about the details about the story. Like one person said, "This is really private. You don't want to spread this around." But some people think that his girlfriend had just dumped him and that he died on purpose. Someone else said, "Oh, you know what they were getting? Those supplies? They were getting barley because they used to make poutine there." They were talking about it as if it was gossip from, from last week or last month. I was also told that there was a guy in town who could take me out to this rock where his body had been found. And so I looked the guy up. I should remember his name, but I don't offhand. And he dropped what he was doing, typical of an Irishman, and took me out, probably a quarter mile along the coast to this big rock, the Rock of Tears, Carrick Nanor. And this is where his body had been found. And it was like everybody in town knew the song and knew the story, and as if it had just happened, and yet it was 1811 when this happened. It's an example of how history can be collapsed in an oral-based society. Anyway, I gave the words to the translation to Lynn, and if you could post them, Lynn, that would be great. I will be singing the first, second, and next to last verses. The first verse was about the incident. The second verse is about the mother and the brother. And the third verse that I sing will be about the curse that the father has placed on the shoreline. The first Tuesday of September. An Hedward die orb of Ronach Tershach Mashkel La happy vi kroga gal roam early abin and yell Ar Carrick Nanor is doger Kjalme Marek is gaje me fwiod is na hochad magna dei Ta the water is neal fwy chiens is faralio an law. Dag to osna in a glia nach leis an doctor noliai. Ar haller marivgus bui shilig crin in moliai. Godor hin marfuskla padi veslan. Mawalach go buan favruach sho cloddy sho his she dadak me fuichum surin goldo sanaki machri. Shade churins anoi manur adag vishu ganri gan vishnu gan stuum ach maru vogt agimacht legui, like a bundle blown away by the wind. There you are. Thank you. Let's jump ahead 200 years. This was written by Sean Moan, and the first time I heard it, as with many of these songs, it just reached out and grabbed me. And you'll see why. Has a chorus. See if you can pick it up. Battles and wars leave deep wounds and scars. Deep wounds are long in the mending. While reflecting upon all that has gone, life rushes on to its ending. Though sorrow and pain in our memories remain, and by memories lifetimes are measured, yet the times that we spend among lovers and friends are times we'll remember with pleasure. So lift up your glass at our future and past, in harmony be determined, for there's more friendship poured out in one bottle of stout than in all of your statutes and sermons. I've heard all the old songs, all the rights, all the wrongs, heard prophets of doom and destruction, street corner messiahs and moral pariahs, and dealers in bribes and corruption, from the holy and wise denials and lies, when innocent youth was forsaken. Yet the times that I've spent among lovers and friends, I've been sorry to see the dawn breaking. So lift up your glass at our future and past, in harmony be determined, for there's more friendship poured out in one bottle of stout than in all of your statutes and sermons. There are those who are certain that drinking and courting are the sure way to hell and damnation. But if that is to be, well, it seems clear to me that their God has no sense of occasion. To help this great plan, both woman and man bring forth each new generation, and a wee drop of stout and the odd bit of an old halt can greatly assist procreation. So lift up your glass at our future and past, in harmony be determined, for there's more friendship poured out in one bottle of stout than in all of your statutes and sermons. To the brashest and proudest and those who shout loudest, 'twould seem that all power has been given to separate and divide us in the hope of their version of heaven. But mountains and rivers will by far outlive us, and when our bones into dust they have withered, there'll be lovers and friends who will still comprehend the true reason we're all here together. So lift up your glass at our future and past, in harmony be determined, for there's more friendship poured out in one bottle of stout than in all of your statutes and sermons. Yes, there's more friendship poured out in one bottle of stout than in all of your statutes and sermons. There you are. All right. Good stuff. The second summer that I was in Ireland, back in 1983, I went by bicycle and landed in Shannon, put my bike back together, and headed off toward Milltown Malbay for the Willie Clancy week. And going through the drumlins of Central Clare was an interesting experience. Happened to me. Now, these drumlins are very small hills, small regular hills that were left by the glaciers, continental glaciers that covered Ireland back 13,000 years ago. And as I was going up one of these hills, a tractor passed me and went on ahead. I got to the top and then passed the tractor going downhill. The tractor was going at a steady speed, maybe, 20 miles an hour or something like that. And I was going slowly up the hills with a loaded bike and zipping down the other side really fast. And this happened 3 or 4 times. And we started acknowledging each other. He'd pass me going up the hill and wave, and I'd pass him going down the hill and wave. And then the road leveled off, and he went on ahead. A little while later, I saw him off to the side of the road by what was apparently his house. And so I stopped, and we chatted a bit. And of course, he right away realized that I was a Yank, and I don't know if he really asked this or not, but it's a really good line. Are you here searching for your roots? And I said, no, I'm searching for songs. And he says, oh, you're a singer. Well, by this time, they had invited me in, and I had a cup of tea in my hand. And, Irish hospitality is just amazing. And so he said, well, sing us a song. And so I did. I sang this song that I had gotten the year before. I'm not remembering the name of the guy I got it from. A young guy. Anyway, it's Aaron Gra McCree, Ireland, Love of My Heart. And I sang the song for him, and he says, oh, that's wonderful, wonderful. My mother used to sing that song to me when I was young. But you left a verse out. And he gave me another verse to the song. You can never tell what will happen in Ireland. It's just amazing. In my judgment, it wasn't such a great quality verse, but for this concert, and because I tell this story now, I patched it up a little bit, and I will sing it. It's the verse about the girlfriend at the end. Another one of the emigrant songs. At the setting of the sun, when my daily work was done, as I rambled round the fields for a stroll, it was there all alone I sat down upon a stone for to gaze on the scenes of New York. Oh, Erin Gramacree, you're the only land for me. You're the fairest spot that e'er my eyes could behold. You're the bright star of the west. You're the land St. Patrick blessed. You're far dearer than silver or gold. Well, the turf it will burn bright in each hearth and home tonight, and the snowflake will fall soft on wintry gale, and St. Patrick's Day will come, and the shamrock will be worn in our own little island so green. Well, it broke my mother's heart when from her I had to part. Never will I see my darling mother more, for it is now that she is laid in her cold and silent grave, in her own little island so green. Well, it was hard to bid adieu to the one I love so true. Darling, will I ever see you anymore? Not until I go home to my friends and kin at home, to my own native land so far away. Oh, Erin Gramacree, you're the only land for me. You're the fairest spot that e'er my eyes could behold. You're the bright star in the west. You're the land St. Patrick blessed. You're far dearer than silver or There you are. Thank you. Far dearer than silver or gold. It was Thomas Lernahan, by the way, who was driving that tractor. And thank you, Thomas, for the extra verse and the great little story. When I got to Milltown Mall Bay, actually this was a few years later, the last 3 summers that I was there, 84, 85, 86, they started their singing classes at the Willie Clancy Summer School. And Tom Lenahan was one of the guest artists at the class. And here's one of the songs that he sang. It's quite a popular one. You might have heard this. I got an extra verse from Tom Munnelly's book about Tom Lenahan, in which he published the complete song. And I do leave out one of Tom's verses that I just don't like quite as much. But the wordplay and the rhyme scheme is so wonderful. It reflects the old Gaelic poets with the internal rhyme in each line. And let your quacks and newspapers be cutting their capers 'bout curing the vapors, the scratch or the gout, with their powders and potions, their salves and lotions, ochone in the notions they're mighty put out. Would you know the true physic to bother pathetic, to pitch to the divil, cramp, colic, and spleen? You will find it, I think, if you take a big drink with your mouth to the brink of a glass of poteen. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh, whack botheration, no dose in the nation can give consolation like whiskey, me boys. As a babe in the cradle, me nurse with a ladle was filling me mouth with a notion of pap, when a drop from her bottle slipped into me trottle. I capered and waggled right out of her lap. On the floor I lay sprawling and kicking and bawling, till mother and father was both to the fore. All sobbing and sighing, conceived I was dying, but soon found I only was screeching for more. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, how they'd chuckle if babes in their truckle they only could suckle on whiskey, me boys. Through my youthful ingression, those times of depression, that childhood impression still clung to me mind. For at school or at college, the bolus of knowledge I never could gulp till with whiskey combined. And as older I'm growing, time's ever bestowing on Erin's potation a flavour so fine. And howe'er they may lecture about Jove and his nectar, itself is the only true liquor divine. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, it's delightin' for courtin' or fightin', there's not so excitin' as whiskey, me boys. Let your philosophers dabble in science and babble about oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen's fame. But their gin, to my thinking, it's not worth a drinking. Their labour's all lost and their learning's a drain. They may prate by the score of their elements four, that all things earth, air, fire, and water must be. For their rules I don't care, for in Ireland I swear by St. Pat there's a fifth, and that's Whiskey McCree. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh, quack art and science, meself bids defiance, and yield an appliance to whiskey, me boys. Come, guess me this riddle, what beats pipes and fiddle, what's stronger than mustard and milder than tea? Cream. What best wets your whistle, what's purer than crystal, sweeter than honey, and stronger than steam? What will make the lame walk, what will make the dumb talk? What's the elixir of life, the philosopher's stone? Sure, what helped Mr. Brunel to dig the Thames Tunnel? Sure wasn't it poaching from old Inishowen? So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh, Lord, I'd not wonder if lightning and thunder weren't made from the plunder of whiskey, me boys. There you are. Now, you'll have to excuse me for just a second. I forgot to plug my camera in, and it's running out of juice, so just a second. Okay, that ought to take care of it. I had meant to mention this before the song. I have some sad news. I wanted to dedicate this song to Des Hearns, who just died last night from COVID. Some of you might have remembered, it was probably 6 weeks ago. He was with in the Mermaid's Tavern during the pub session, and I sang that song before Des, and Des said, "My friend David Ingerson stole my song," but he had another one, of course. So, just in remembrance of Des, thank you for all your songs, Des, and we will remember you. Here's another fairly newly composed song by Sean McCarthy. It's about an incident, a very personal incident during the uprising in 1921-22. The tune, of course, is off the shelf, but I think you'll enjoy not only the sentiment, well, maybe not enjoy. Enjoy might not be quite the right word. You'll be affected by the sentiment and also the structure of the verses. The cold wind from the mountains is calling soft to me. The smell of scented heather brings a bitter memory. The wild and lonely eagle in the summer skies flies over Shanagolden, where my young Willie lies. I met him in the winter when love was all around. When snow was on the ground, the Irish hills were peaceful, and love was all around. Scarce 21 years old, but a young man in his prime. We were married, darling Willie, by the eve of Christmas tide. Do you remember, Willie, we walked the moonlit road? I held you in my arms, I would never let you go. Our fingers all entwined, love, all in the pale moonlight, by the fields of Shanagolden, on a lonely winter's night. Then came the call to arms, love, and the hills they were aflame. Down from the silent mountains the Saxon strangers came. I held you in my arms then, my young heart wild with fear, by the fields of Shanagolden, in the springtime of the year. You fought them, darling Willie, all through the summer days. You could hear the rifles firing in the mountains far away. I held you in my arms then, your blood ran free and bright, by the fields of Shanagolden, on a lonely summer's night. But that was long ago, love, and your son grows fine and strong. The Irish hills are at peace again, the Saxon strangers almost gone. We'll place a red rose on your grave in the silvery pale moonlight, by the fields of Shanagolden, on a lonely winter's night. There you are. Thank you. Shanagolden. It's a little town in the northwest part of County Kerry. I'd better move along. This next song I picked up in Dublin back in 1983, I think. And just real briefly, well, you know what? I probably don't have time. It's a great little song. A short time ago, boys, an Irishman named Doherty was elected to Senate by a very large majority. Sure, he felt so elected that he sent for Dennis Cassidy, who owns a bar room of a very large capacity. Ross says, Doherty, go over to the brewer and order 100 kegs of lager beer and give it to the poor. Then go over to the butcher shop and order up a ton of meat. Be sure the boys and girls have got all they want to drink and eat. They made me the senator to show them me gratitude. They'll have the finest supper ever given in this latitude. Tell them that the music will be furnished by O'Rafferty, assisted on the bagpipes by Felix McCafferty. Sure, whatever the expenses are, remember, I'll put up the tin. And anyone who doesn't come, be sure and do not let them in. Then Cassidy at once sent out the invitations, and everyone who came was a credit to the nation. Some came by bicycle because they had no fares to pay, and all those who didn't come made up their minds to stay away. 2 by 3 they all rushed in the dining hall, old men and young men and girls that were not men at all. Deaf men and blind men, men who had the chicken pox, single men and double men, men who had their glasses on. Well, in a few minutes nearly every seat was taken, till the tap rooms and mushrooms were packed to suffocation. When everyone was seated and we started to lay out the feast, Cassidy says, rise up and give us each a cake of yeast. He then said as manager he would try to fill the chair. We then sat down and all looked over the bill of fare. Well, there was pigs' heads, goldfish, mockingbirds, and ostriches, ice cream, cold cream, Vaseline, and sandwiches, blue fish, green fish, fish hooks and partridges, fish balls, snowballs, cannonballs, and cartridges. We ate oatmeal till we couldn't hardly stir about, ketchup and hurry up, sweet kraut and sauerkraut, dressed beef and naked beef and beef with all his trousers on, soda crackers, firecrackers, Cheshire cheese with breeches on. Beef steaks and mistakes were down upon the bill of fare, roast ribs and spare ribs and ribs that we couldn't spare. Well, there was reindeer and snow deer and deer me and antelope, and the women ate so much melon the meds and they cantaloupe, red herons, smoked herons, herons from old Aaron's Isle, bangerloaf, fruit cake, sausages a half a mile, hot corn, cold corn, corn cakes and honeycomb, red birds, red books, sea bass and sea foam, fried liver, baked liver, carter's liver of pills, and everyone was wondering who was going to pay the bill. Well, we ate everything that was down upon the bill of fare, and we looked on the back just to see if any more was there. Now for dessert we had ice picks, toothpicks, and a piece of skipping rope. We washed it all down with a big piece of shaving soap. The band played hornpipes, gas pipes, and Irish reels, till we danced to the music of the wine that shakes the barley field. Then the piper played old tunes and spittoons so very fine. Then in came the fiddler Pat and gave to him a glass of wine. A finer set of dancers you never set your eyes upon, and anyone who couldn't dance was dancing with his slippers on. Some danced jig steps, door steps, and Highland flings, till Murphy took his knife out and tried to cut the pigeon's wings. When the dance was over, Cassidy told us to all join hands and sing this good old chorus. Should old acquaintance be forgot, whoever yous might be, but think of the good old times we had at the Irish Jubilee. The Irish Jubilee. From the music hall into the tradition. Okay. This next song is also newly composed by John Tunney. It was composed probably about 30 or 40 years ago when there were major famines in Africa, and the Irish government was not taking a stand. And just a word about the so-called potato famine. In Ireland, it's called the Great Hunger. And technically speaking, it's not really a famine at all, because a famine is when there is no food. In Ireland, during the late 1840s, there was plenty of food. In fact, they were exporting food. If you had money, you ate well. But unfortunately, a huge minority of the Irish population at that time lived outside the money economy. They would give the pig that they had raised plus the cash crops that they raised to their landlord for rent. They ate what they grew, potatoes and cabbages mostly, and they simply did not have money. And so when the potato went under, they didn't eat. This is a story about one incident during that great hunger. You have heard them speak about Mozambique and of Africa's famine tide, of how drought and greed, of which few take heed, had consumed a continent's pride. And while millions cried, 10,000s die, and our government takes no stand. But the story I'll tell's of a similar hell that happened in our own land. Early spring in black 49, the country was on the rack. Day and night, relentless blight had consumed the tatty crop. And while cattle and grain were exported to Spain, and food lay piled in stores in Mayo South and round about, the people they perished in scores. Now crowds were gathered in Louisburg, hoping for some relief. 'Twas said that the poor law guardians could end their piteous grief. These gentlemen kind were meeting to dine in Delphi, 10 miles away. Women, children, and men, 600 strong, set out on that fateful day. Crossing the Glenkeane in full flood, some fell by the riverside, and going along the mountain track, still more collapsed and died. Exhausted and weak, scarce able to speak, they thronged into Delphi town, and waited in mass for some food or a pass to enter the workhouse grounds. After his meal of fine wine and veal, the guardian addressed them all. There is no food here, and I greatly fear no room within the workhouse walls. So you'll all have to go, hail, rain, or snow, and to your homes go back. Dismayed and afraid, with fear in their hearts, they set out upon the track. Like harvest sheaves or autumn leaves, they fell dying along the road. And when dark came on, the snow came down. The night was a bitter cold. Going along the cliff, the wind it was stiff, driving on the blinding sleet. Hundreds were swept into Duloch's depths, a horror beyond belief. Next day the relieving officer had a terrible sight in store. With bodies strewn along the route and littering Duloch's shores, whole families dead for want of being fed, and injustice a crying shame, a forgotten sign to our own time, when we witness the very same. For from the Sudan to Pakistan, famine victims they cry in need, and a nation like ours that knows this curse must surely take the lead. So remember that walk, and remember Duloch. Let our banners be unfurled against selfish gain and indifference to pain, and for justice throughout our world. Yes. What a great song. Thank you. And thanks to John Tunney. John is Paddy's son, the great Paddy Tunney of folk music and folklore. All right. I have two quick songs to finish up here. This one is a parody on the song Lanigan's Ball, and it was written about 8 months ago, and it's already out of date in a number of ways. I've added a few lines, and it goes like this. In the town of Wuhan, some germs from an animal made a great lep and infected a few. Nobody thought it would be a pandemic, but now the whole world's in a hullabaloo. It didn't take long for the germs to go global in planes and trains and cruises by sea. Now locked in our homes and trying to stay sober, we can't even watch the live sports on TV. 6 long months in isolation, 6 long months doing nothing at all. 6 long months in isolation, this lockdown is driving me right up the wall. I tried to go out, got sent back in again. I went out again, straight back in again. Sick to death of this social distancing, finished the lockdown for once and for all. Now the experts say to keep 2 meters distance and never to gather in couples and groups. And eating at home is a feckin' disaster. I'm fat as a fool eating pasta and soups. Now in the UK the virus was active. It got the Prime Minister in number 10. I hope Boris Johnson recovers completely so that we can call him a dickhead again. 6 long months in isolation, 6 long months without toilet roll. I wish to God that I had constipation because I got nothing for wiping me whole. I tried to go out, got sent back in again. I went out again, straight back in again. Sick to death of this social distancing, finished the lockdown for once and for all. Now Trump took it lightly, there's no need to panic, we're under control, sure, 'tis only a flu. He finally did what he promised his voters, America first in this virus too. He made the West, he He turned the West Wing he made the West Wing a super spreader, infecting the West Wing. He made the White House a super spreader, infecting the West Wing officials galore. In spite of his ranting about the vote, soon we won't have to worry about him anymore. 4 long years with Trump as president, 4 long years through nothing at all. Talk and shite and blame and China while Mexico begs him to finish the wall. I tried to go out, got sent back in again. I went out again, straight back in again. Sick to death of the social distancing, finish the lockdown for once and for all. Now the end is in sight, the vaccine is coming, but lifting the lockdown is yet to be seen. Staying apart and wearing a mask is the short-term solution to COVID-19. 6 long months in isolation, the planet has never looked greener before. But back to the grind to pay off the mortgage. The world, it just won't be the same anymore. Thank you. Indeed, it won't be the same anymore. So I would like to finish up with another newly composed song by Tommy Sands, expressing a sentiment that we especially need to encourage here in the States. I'll start out with the chorus, and maybe you can pick it up. So let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll soon make room for you. Let your heart have no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. We will travel along on the wings of a song, with a mind that is open and free. If we close our eyes to the other side, we're just half of what we could be. So let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll soon make room for you. Let your heart have no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. There are songs to be sung, there are rafters to be rung, there are stories there are reason to rosin your bow. There are stories of old, and there's new ones to be told, for to carry away when you go. So let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll soon make room for you. Let your heart have no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. So we'll pass the bottle round, and we'll drink another round, that our friendship will always remain. For how can we tell when we say our farewells, just when we will all meet again? So let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll soon make room for you. Let your heart have no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. Just friends you never knew. Thank you so much for being here. And if you go to my website, you can get connections to where you can purchase, download my album, My Lovely Mountain Home. And if you are inclined, there up in the upper right-hand corner of my website is a little P for PayPal, and that is a tip jar. No real need, but it's certainly always useful. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. I love
David, I
singing.
can't thank you enough. That was wonderful. If you'd like to unmute and give David a round of applause, I think that would be great.
Thank you, David. It's great to hear you again.
Great.
So good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good. So good.
Thanks, David.
All right.
Keep it up.
Oh, yes.